Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to part 2. I'm taking a little break in the air conditioning right now, thankfully. Super hot outside. This is an exciting one. This is a collaboration with Vigo Garden, the raised beds. I, of course, had to say yes. I have several of their raised beds already, and I love them. Like, I was totally one of these raised beds naysayers, like, oh, I don't need any raised beds. Love them. So we're going to get started. I'm going to be putting these irises into raised beds. This is really exciting. I think this is really going to help with controlling the borers, because this is a covered raised bed, and just making sure our flowers are staying beautiful when they're in bloom so we can pick them when they finally come into flower and everything. But first, let's get back to the ones that we pulled out of the ground and see what they're looking like, talk a little bit more about those, and we'll be ready to go. I'm so excited. So before we officially get going, links are down in the description to the products that I'm using. These were sent for me, complimentary to the brand. I am so thankful. Like I said, getting this started and everything is such a struggle, and I'm so pressed for money, and I'm just so thankful. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like branded content, but this is going to be a game changer for the donation garden. So I'm just, like I said, just very thankful. Now let's drink a bunch of water, put our sunscreen on, and head outside into the hot, sticky, humid mess out there. So getting right into the unboxing, it arrived like this. This is the 10-in-1 classic bed, so you know it's going to be a good one. It's going to be the long 2.5 by 9 one. See, each of the segments are wrapped, and we have our trusty bag of hardware here. Now, this has changed quite a bit since my last bed, and there have been quite a few improvements made, which I was really easy, kind of glad to see. This was actually really easy to put together compared to the first one that I did way back in the day. So just like a snap, less than an hour, lots of nuts and bolts, of course, but that's to be expected. Just sturdy, all the plastic came off really easy. Really a good project for a beginner if you've never done something like this before. So I thought I would go ahead and show you what these iris rhizomes are looking like. These have been laying on this table for 2 days now. It's hot, it's humid, but they are in the shade and they are protected. As you can see, let me grab one. Tops are still pretty green, but this has scabbed over quite a bit. There we go, it's in focus. You can see it's got a kind of a layer over it. I'm not quite sure how to explain it. Also, something to note when looking for kind of a healthy rhizome, check out these roots. These roots are nice and plump and flexible, pliable. They're not like a little dried up thing. This is what we want. This is what we're looking for. Even though these have been left to kind of cure for a few days, they are perfectly healthy. They're going to grow, no problems. I think a lot of people have mentioned these things are virtually indestructible. You can store them. I've stored them for a week at a time before and had good success with it. Check out this one. This one's a monster. Can't wait to get that into a bed. Last video, I do believe somebody had mentioned a concern about the timing. It's mid-July here. I've always read that these can be dug and separated anytime mid-July to August. And yes, technically September also. I think a lot of people usually think about dividing these in September just because the weather has finally cooled off a little bit, and that's when wholesale suppliers start to sell things and ship things. But ideally, a little bit earlier is usually best for me. I'm in Zone 6, so I'm just south of Nashville, in case y'all are wondering, in case you're new to the channel. But that's that. So I wanted to show you these little tiny guys. These were just little tiny, I don't know what to call them, miniature rhizomes that were on the mother. I went ahead and snipped those as well, because even though they are tiny, as long as they have a healthy little root there, you can see a plump root, at least one, and this one even had a little green growth tip. I'm just going to toss that into the beds, and in my experience, these things almost always grow, and they grow into a larger rhizome that will eventually produce a plant. So even little small things like that, I'm keeping those and planting those. Just because they are tiny doesn't necessarily mean that you have to throw them away or discard them. These things are pretty tough, and I mean, it's nature. They want to grow, they want to thrive, so You know, you'd be really surprised by how forgiving some of this stuff can be. Let's get to the raised beds now. So once my bed was constructed, it's time to position it in the garden. As you can see, I've laid down a couple layers of landscape fabric to keep the weeds out, keep everything nice and tidy, and I've used just a mix of different soils and, you know, stuff for my bedding mix. I'm not going to go into that because there are about 1 million people talking about that, and it's just really basic and simple. Here are our rhizomes that have been allowed to cure and everything. And all I'm going to do is just dig a hole and stick them in. Now, you might remember from the video where I planted these in beds, a lot of people suggest making a mound, like a mound of soil that the rhizome itself can rest on. The main reason I'm not doing this is these divisions are somewhat small, just because they're so young, and this is an extremely well draining bed. This is a raised bed, so I shouldn't have any problem, just like the other kind of sources that you see. I am going to leave the shoulders of that exposed, of that rhizome exposed, just to the air, just because that's just what you do. I don't know why, but in general, for a bearded iris, you do want to leave a little bit of that exposed. I really tried to get creative with my camera angles here. Unfortunately, I didn't do too good of a job, but you guys get the idea. I just went through this entire bed planting these rhizomes. If you are interested in planting these into an actual bed, into the soil, I have a video for that. I'm going to put the link to the Bearded Iris playlist down in the description so you can find the mini tour, you know, the like the Bearded Iris tour and the planting video and all the different videos that I have for these. Now, I know a lot of you guys might be really worried that I'm planting these into raised beds. I'm here in zone 6B7, so these can handle it. They're hardy to believe to zone 3. I neglect my irises. I've left them in containers. I've left them just practically exposed all winter. I know for a fact that they're going to be able to handle this. What's really special about this garden bed is that it has a cover system that we can use to cover our irises. Iris borer moths are going to be laying their eggs and doing the most damage they are going to do in the late summer to early fall. So if I cover these new rhizomes at this time, we should be able to prevent those from getting into the beds and prevent the damage, which is of course awesome, especially if we're going to be growing these as cut flowers. I'll admit that I was a little bit intimidated by this cover system as soon as I saw all the pieces, but it was so incredibly easy to put together. Here's what it looks like without the mesh on yet, or the shade cloth. I'm not quite sure. It's nice and thick and breathable, this cloth is. Also wanted to note my spacing for these before I forget. 6-inch spacing here in my bed. Usually about a 12-inch spacing is best, but I'm going for high intensity here. I absolutely love this cover system. There are so many things you could do with it, from plant breeding to keeping insects and pets off. There's just, oh, I'm so excited to begin using this and really help keep those blooms beautiful, protect them from rain when we're going to harvest them. Just the possibilities are truly limitless. Really good construction fits on there great, and I'm really, really excited and really pleased. That's really about it for this video. I hope that it was somehow helpful. I'm not quite sure. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it's beautiful wherever you are. You deserve it. Bye.